You know, it all started with a sound, a grinding, tearing noise that just didn't belong out here on the land, you know? It was the sound of expensive tires. Specifically the low-profile ones on a pearl-white Range Rover, annihilating perfectly good soil, driving straight through the middle of Old Man Cassidy's prize-winning Maple Creek pasture, like it was the newly paved entrance to a country club. My grandfather, Pops, he's not a dramatic guy, but he lives by the rhythm of the seasons, the feel of the dirt under his boots. That pasture, that wasn't just grass. It was his livelihood, his legacy, a piece of earth his daddy bought back in 1948, long before the Willow Creek Estates Board, WCEB, subdivision, decided to pop up like a fungus on the ridge overlooking his place. And every morning, there she was, Brenda, the HOA queen, designer shades, travel mug, a little smirk, gliding across his field because taking the county road added maybe 5 minutes to her commute to the Pilates studio. The first couple of days, Pop stood out on the porch, bathrobe flapping like a flag of surrender, just watching her go, muttering things that would make a sailor blush. He figured, hey, maybe she was lost. Maybe the GPS messed up. We all make mistakes, right? But on the third morning, she slowed down just enough to give him this perfectly saccharine, high society wave, and that was it. That was the moment Pops's patience didn't just run out, it combusted. That field was his pride, the very soul of the Cassidy property, and this woman, this empress of the cul-de-sac, was flattening it into her personal highway. So, the next day, he marched out there, mud squishing under his old leather work boots. His voice, when it came, wasn't a shout. It was a low, dangerous rumble. "Ma'am," he said, hands resting on his hips, "you are currently trespassing on private agricultural land." Brenda rolled down her window, and I swear she didn't just smile, she beamed, like she was a beauty queen solving world hunger. "Oh, bless your heart, sir," she cooed. "I'm just taking the designated easement road. The WCEB approved it years ago as a communal shortcut." Pops blinked slowly. "Easement road?" He leaned in, his face all scrunched up. "There's no easement road here, ma'am. There never has been." That's when she pulled out the nuclear option, the phone. She zoomed in on some blurry line on Google Maps and declared, "See? It connects right here, directly to Main Street. The county even marked it." Pops squinted harder, recognizing the pattern. "Brenda," he said, using her name for the first time, cutting through her sweet veneer. "That is a 200-year-old contour line, showing the elevation drop of the land. It's not a road, it's geology." But Brenda, she wasn't listening. She was that special kind of entitled where facts are just suggestions, easily dismissed if they interrupt her convenience. "Well, it functions as a road now," she chirped, before flooring the gas, showering Pops's jeans with a nice coating of fresh pasture dust as she sped away. That evening, the kitchen table was buried under county survey maps, property deeds dating back to the Dust Bowl, and a handful of coffee mugs. Pops looked like a tired detective in an old movie, tracing lines with a pencil, muttering about boundaries and land misuse. "This is about more than a shortcut." "Son," he finally said, his finger tapping a heavy, official seal on a 1948 deed. "It's about the principle. It's about respect. If I let her do this, the next 10 of them will do it, and then my land's worthless. I'm not fighting her. I'm fighting for the integrity of this farm." He wasn't wrong. Over the next few days, he put up big signs, the kind with red, bold letters. Brenda tore them down and posted pictures in the WCEB's private Facebook group, complaining that some antiquated old farmer is blocking a community artery. "This is anti-neighborly behavior, ladies." The comments, I saw them, they were brutal. "Protect Brenda at all costs." Cranky old man stuck in the past. And my personal favorite, "He probably hates progress." Pops, though, he just went quiet. That's the worst sign. When Old Man Cassidy stops yelling and starts smiling, you know a storm is coming and it won't be raining water. It'll be raining paperwork and vengeance. He tried the soft approach one last time. Orange cones, reflective tape, a little rope barrier. Brenda just slowed down, found the biggest gap, and drove around them, waving with the same smug little finger. She thinks she's played her hand. "Thinks she's won the social media war?" Pop said, his eyes glinting with a dangerous kind of calm. But Brenda and her WCEB ladies, they only read bylaws. My boy, I wrote the rule book, and that's when Act 2 began. The paper war turned to siege engineering. Pops didn't just make a trip to town. He went deep into the county archives. When he came back, he had a grin wider than a corn-fed steer, armed not just with the original deed, but with something far more potent. His old, dusty ID badge from his time as the county zoning and water rights commissioner. He hadn't just worked for the county. He had run the department that governed exactly this kind of land use dispute for 20 years. Brenda thinks the WCEB is the highest authority, he whispered, sitting at the kitchen table, running a calloused thumb over the seal on a water usage permit from 1963. She's about to meet the higher power, and it's me. The next morning, Brenda drove through again. Same time, same route, same utterly self-satisfied wave. Pops just stood there, sipping his coffee, letting her pass. He wasn't stopping her. He was letting her mark the exact coordinates of her final mistake. By the time the weekend rolled around, Pops had traded his coffee cup for a straw hat and a half-smoked cigar. I woke up to the clanking of heavy machinery. Outside, near the property line, the backhoe was roaring. "Pops! What in God's name are you doing?" I had to yell over the diesel engine. He cut the ignition, looked up, a thick, knowing smirk splitting his face. "Building a moat, son," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "If Brenda wants to treat my land like a thoroughfare, she's going to need a drawbridge." I thought he was joking until I saw the blueprint taped to the hood of his truck. Stakes, surveyor string, and official-looking schematic diagrams. "It's a drainage improvement trench," he clarified, winking hard. "Perfectly legal, mandatory even under state agricultural code, see? Helps mitigate seasonal runoff from the hillside into the main creek. Legal or not, this was no simple trench. It was a ditch worthy of a medieval fortress. Deep enough, wide enough, and running precisely along the entire section Brenda considered her shortcut. The neighborhood grapevine went absolutely ballistic. People were parking their cars on the county road to peek, filming it on their phones, whispering about Old Man Cassidy's Revenge Canal. One kid spray-painted a sign and stuck it by the road. "Welcome to Fort Grandpa, Kingdom of Common Sense." Brenda naturally lost her mind. She stomped across the edge of the field in her Lululemon gear, arms flailing. "You can't do this," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "It's an eyesore. It's a safety hazard. It's blocking the community artery." Pops didn't even turn off the backhoe. "Ma'am," he said over the low idle of the engine, his voice flat. "This is private farmland, and I've filed proper drainage rights. Want to see the seal? It's been on file since 1963. I'm calling the WCEB, she spat, and I'm calling the county inspector. You'll be fined." Pops just shrugged and pulled off his hat. "Tell him Old Man Cassidy says hello. We used to share an office, and sure enough, when the WCEB appointed inspector, a nervous-looking man named Gary, showed up the next day, he walked right past Brenda, looked at the perfectly filed permits, looked at the enormous ditch, and shook Pops's hand with an uncomfortable chuckle. "Thompson, you old dog," he said. Still playing by the book, I see. The look on Brenda's face, when she realized she hadn't just tattled to the authority, but to the authority's former boss, was a masterpiece of sputtering crimson humiliation. It could have powered a small town for a week. By midweek, the trench was complete. Pops rerouted his irrigation to fill it up, and before long, the Cassidy Canal was a shimmering, muddy obstacle wrapping halfway around the field. It wasn't deep enough to drown, but it was just deep enough to ensure that a shiny, expensive Range Rover would sink like a porcelain bathtub. The social media traction exploded. The photo of Pops standing by his tractor next to the water, arms crossed like a movie poster, went completely viral. The caption, "When HOA Karen meets her match." Comments poured in, "Protect this man. Moat Master strikes again." And one very simple, powerful message. Harmony starts when you stop driving through other people's wheat. Brenda had lost the court of public opinion, the court of law, and the court of the county. But entitlement, you see, is a powerful drug. It blinds you, The very next morning, she decided she had to prove a point. She lined up her pristine SUV at the edge of the field, stared down the muddy water, revved the engine, and with a terrible self-righteous roar, she went for it. For about 2 glorious seconds, it looked like she might just make it, the tires biting at the far bank. Then, with a sickening wet slurp, her front wheels dipped past the axle, her tires spun uselessly, and the Range Rover settled nose first into the thick, chocolate-brown muck. Pops, standing on the porch with his fresh, chipped coffee cup, took out his phone. He didn't even bother zooming in. "Smile for the WCEB newsletter, Brenda," he murmured quietly. When the tow truck arrived, half the neighborhood was there, some bringing actual lawn chairs. The tow truck driver, a local named Chet, looked at the car, then at Pops, and grinned. "The same one as last week, huh, Mr. Cassidy?" Pops just nodded. "Found the new speed bump, Chet?" Brenda refused to make eye contact as her mud-caked, defeated chariot was hauled out of the pit. She stormed home, leaving a trail of watery disgrace. But Pops wasn't done. He printed the video frame by frame, labeled it Trespasser Exhibit A, and pinned it next to the deed map. "Documentation," he said with a quiet, satisfied look. That night, she filed the formal WCEB complaint. Dangerous, obstructive water barrier. The next morning, an official envelope was taped to our mailbox, filled with jargon about bylaws, aesthetics, and safety violations. Pop skimmed it, chuckled, and then pulled out his old commissioner badge from the drawer. "If they want war," he said, placing the brass badge on the table like a poker chip, "we'll play by the book." My book. Weeks passed. The moat remained calm, home to frogs and one very happy duck Brenda claimed attracted pests. The drama was settling, and Pop seemed content with his victory. Then one dawn, I saw it. A small, bizarre wooden bridge spanning the narrowest part of the Cassidy Canal. It was painted a gaudy, bright pink with white handrails, and a sparkly wooden sign dangled above it. "Brenda's Crossing." Pops stood there, steam rising from his coffee cup, truly baffled. He hadn't built it. Brenda denied it furiously, claiming defamation. He didn't trust anyone. He pulled the footage from the trail cameras he'd installed. Grainy black and white night vision. Hours of empty field, then headlights. A black pickup truck idling near the fence. Figures moving in the dark, carrying lumber. He zoomed in, grain by grain, until the magnetic decal on the truck door came into focus. WCEB Maintenance Division. The driver stepped out, his face barely visible, but clear enough for Pops to recognize instantly. It wasn't Brenda. It was Victor Sterling, the WCEB president. Pops sat back, the slow, dangerous smile returning to his face. "So that's how it is," he whispered, staring out at the glinting water. Brenda thought she was the queen of entitlement, but she was just a pawn. The real puppet master, the institutional bully, is sitting higher up the chain. The game had changed. The war wasn't about a shortcut anymore, or even about Brenda. It had moved up to a battle against HOA power, and Pops, the Moat master, was about to show the entire Willow Creek Estates Board what happens when you declare open season on the wrong old man. He poured another cup of coffee, the steam curling up like smoke from a newly fired cannon. He had his evidence, and he had his principles. And I knew, right then, that Pops was about to dig a whole lot deeper. What do you think? Was Pops right to let Brenda drive into the moat just to get evidence, or should he have focused only on the legal filings? And now that the WCEB president is involved, how far do you think this institutional power play will go? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you want to hear what happens next in the final chapter of Old Man Cassidy and the WCEB.